Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'm supposed to say something about a book that I didn't write. So, therefore, I don't have to say much, but I have to thank the editors and translators and everyone who helped to put this book together. And I hope that will have in one way a positive effect, especially in Portuguese-speaking countries. They have no longer an excuse for not reading something about history or of linguistics. And therefore, I think we all have to be very grateful to translators and editors of this collection of my sins of the past. Thank you very much.
I was asked to say some words quite informally. I just would like, as an introduction, an English introduction to Konrad Koerner, to thank you, Konrad. Because if it is, if it is 40 years of historiography of linguistics for you, for me it's 20 years. When I started on the subject 20 years ago, you were the ones of, let's say, the directors of my work. The other one, Pierre Striggers, who is also here, but I thank you very much. And the texts that are translated today are, in a certain way, the result of this work, in this effort to implement a new area of research also in Brazil, these areas of research. So it's very meaningful we are together all here in this conference, and I'm glad for the colleagues from the university, UTAD, who made this possible, actually. It was their initiative, and I thank you. But I still have some words in Portuguese to say. And se pode dizer algo definitivo sobre Konrad Koerner, é que para ele, a menos que você entenda a história de um assunto, você não o compreende de verdade. E.F.K. Koerner dedicou toda a sua vida à vida acadêmica e principalmente à editoração científica. Eu não estaria exagerando se dissesse que o acervo das suas publicações reúne hoje cerca de 500 volumes. E nós vimos, né, que exatamente no material reunido por ICHoLS eu vi uma coletânea Beyond 500 Volumes. Esses volumes estão distribuídos nas 5 séries que ele criou e que mantém até hoje na editora John Benjamin's. Além, claro, das dezenas de milhares de páginas dos 2 periódicos científicos que também criou, Diacrônica e Historiografia Linguística. Konrad Koerner é autoridade em muitas coisas e da sua lavra saíram muitos livros. Foi pioneiro no trabalho em historiografia linguística e seu grande divulgador, não só pela publicação das 200 de artigos científicos, dos vários livros especializados que escreveu, entre os quais se incluem os 4 livros sobre o pensamento saussuriano, traduzido também em várias línguas, mas também pela sua contribuição para a profissionalização do campo da historiografia linguística como legítima área de trabalho acadêmico. Com efeito, desde 1973, quando deu início às E.F.K. Enterprises, até hoje, são 40 anos dedicados à pesquisa, ao ensino, ao incentivo, à produção e à divulgação do trabalho acadêmico em História das Ciências da Linguagem. O livro, que sai agora em português, por iniciativa dos colegas de Vila Real, vem se somar àqueles vários outros que Koerner dedicou à discussão dos fundamentos metodológicos do trabalho em historiografia linguística, por exemplo, a questão da metalinguagem, o argumento da influência e os princípios gerais que regem o trabalho historiográfico. Em segundo lugar, ao estudo de correntes fundadoras do pensamento e da prática de análise linguística, como o pensamento saussuriano, a linguística alemã do século XIX, ou o descritivismo linguístico norte-americano, a sociolinguística de Labov e a revolução chomskiana, tema revisitado várias vezes e recorrentes na sua reflexão. Em suma, o livro trata da proposição de que o processo de produção do conhecimento é tão relevante quanto o seu produto final, o que alça a historiografia linguística como campo legítimo de ensino e pesquisa em ciências da linguagem. Eu fico feliz de fazer parte dessa homenagem e muito obrigada aos colegas de Vila Real por terem me proporcionado esse momento também. Muito obrigada. Muito obrigada, Koerner.
I'm glad I didn't hear it. It must be all lies.
I'll translate to you afterwards. I'm your translator.
You'll beat me later on when nobody is watching.
That's the idea. Pode parecer estranho que a apresentação de um livro em português seja feita em língua inglesa, mas isto justifica-se pela composição internacional do painel e da audiência. E por isso passo em inglês. In 2012, Professors Koerner and Altman and myself decided to undertake the edition of some key papers by Professor Konrad Koerner. Some of the papers dated back to the 1970s. Most of them are from the 1990s, and some even more recent. Amongst the 11 articles that are part of the volume we are presenting today, in which you can see here, 5 already have been published in several journals in Brazil. Never before has there been a selection of key elements of Koernerian thought to be published in Portuguese. And we need to thank Cristina Altman for having translated the original Brazilian translations in Brazil and having published them. In what easily could have been a handbook with more Koerner contents, constraints of time and the desire to attend more to the brevity than superfluity led us to choose 11 papers, and not 12 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 100, with a quite elaborate range of topics. Thus, the first 4 papers are dedicated to the definition and key questions related to the historiography of linguistics in the Koernerian sense, the scientific activity of studying the history of the language sciences. It is true that some contents can be found in more than one of the papers that are reproduced in this volume. While conscious of the undesirability of repetitions, we prefer to keep it intact, and thus deemed considerable interest of the book's Lusophone audience exactly in those articles we have reproduced here. In the volume, Konrad Koerner not only discusses the core question of the linguistic discipline that he helped to establish during the 40 years he worked on the history of linguistics, but he discusses the relation between linguistics and philology and meta-language along the papers of more programmatic nature. These are followed by studies of a more specific nature, starting with an elaborate paper that analyzes the question of influence in the case of Gabonese and Saussure. The last 3 papers are dedicated to modern American linguistics. The paper on William Labov considers the origins of modern sociolinguistics in the light of almost forgotten studies in European dialectology from the 19th century on. Finally, Koerner offers us a treasure trove on Chomskyan linguistics. As it might appear that Chomsky himself might not have been as forthcoming about his intellectual and ideological, in the linguistic sense obviously, origins, Koerner delves deeply into key aspects of mid-20th century American linguistics, and the results are quite interesting. But I shall not spoil your pleasure in reading those papers yourself. The book is complemented with a revised and augmented section containing the complete references that had been used in the individual papers. These references, quite obviously, are meant to stress the book's character as an albeit short, handbook of Koerner whatever, linguistics.
Yeah.
We need to work on Koerner terms, I think.
Koernerian.
Koernerian linguistics, yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
You have it from the horse's mouth.
From the Koerner's mouth.
Oh, yes.
In the end, you can find a biographical name index, also copied on what we can find in some Koernerian books. As the 11th book of Cell's Coleção Linguística, this volume constitutes a true group effort of most of the colleagues working in linguistics, and then some. My thanks go to Professor Koerner for allowing us to produce this homage on the occasion of 40 years of linguistic historiography, and also, one might add, 75 years of Konrad Koerner, for that matter, which is quite important too. Also, I need to thank my esteemed colleague, Professor Cristina Altman, who previously had taken it upon herself to divulge Koernerian thought in Brazil, and who accepted being part of this edition. Thank you very much. For the preface to this book, my sincere thanks go to Carlos Assunção, our fearless leader, without whom Cell couldn't exist. Thank you to all the colleagues who newly translated some of the book's articles, namely Sônia Coelho, Susana Fontes, Marlene Loureiro, Felicidade Moraes, and last but not least, Teresa Silva. Thank you very much. Also, this book could not have been published without the arduous revisory work of my dear colleagues and friends Mônica Augusto, Sônia Coelho, Gonçalo Fernandes, Susana Fontes, Marlene Loureiro, Felicidade Moraes, and Teresa Moura. Please, I ask you, please make your applause theirs. Thank you very much. We didn't discuss that before, but I think it's quite evident that as we have enough books for each and everybody of you, you can acquire those books at the Secretariat. And as we've got the author here, I think we can expect him to sign one or the other copy, because this is just the unique occasion to have Konrad Koerner in a room with a book written by, well, we owe to Konrad Koerner, so please enjoy, get a book, get him to sign it.
I have a pen ready.
And he does have a pen, so he's all, while we didn't discuss it, he is prepared, so please enjoy.
Yes.
No, I especially have to sign those for your collaborator.
Yeah, they're already equipped. They will be coming.
They are there. Okay.
So anybody who already has a book may just come on up.
Ricardo já pediu a assinatura. Quem tiver o livro e quiser o autógrafo, agora é uma boa hora. Por favor.
Okay.
Então, Konrad, you should sign mine too.
Yes, of course.
Eu vou também na fila, Rolf.
Não, primeiro foi Ricardo. He was the first.
Yes, somewhere here, I think.
Thank you.
My God.
Acho que eu vou
What
buscar
a
mais uma,
lineup here. All the beauties
mais
here.
uma caixa, não? O que é que você acha?
Ah. Then I have to make it very brief. To my signature
Yes,
will be
of
okay.
course.
So,
Only
no,
your
but in your
signature.
case,
you count?
I have to sign.
What's your name?
My name is Gonçalo.
Yeah.
Oi?
Eu também não sei
Oh,
muito.
Hernandez.
Também não tenho tanta experiência. Eu sei que o Rolf
Hey.